guys, I saw the movie Snow White and the Huntsman last night at midnight, and I wanted to review it for you so that you know ahead of time what it's going to be like and if you should see it or not. I'm not going to talk about spoilers until some point in this video. I'll let you know when, so you're good for now. Nothing's going to get ruined, and then you could just turn it off when I say I'm going to talk about spoilers now. So I was really looking forward to Snow White and the Huntsman, really looking forward to it, and I will say that it did live up to my expectations. It was as good as I thought it was going to be. The first third of the movie was absolutely fantastic and it exceeded my expectations, but in the middle it got a little bit slow, and at the end it picked up a bit, but it wasn't as good as the first third. So it starts off really well, but then for me it sort of got, it didn't get bad, but it just, compared to how good the first third was, it just got a little bit boring, a little bit slow, and it was just sort of, I'll get more into detail about this in the spoiler part, but there were just things that didn't necessarily add to the story, and they put it in, and I don't really understand why. But overall, I absolutely think that you guys should see this movie. Go see it in theaters. It was really great, really interesting and different and unique, and all the performances were really great, but Charlize Theron was incredible. Her performance was just, I mean, beyond. It was so good. She was so just good at being creepy and evil. She got the evil thing down perfectly. And her character was probably the best character because it had so many layers to it, and it was just, there was so much background to her. So that was the best part with Charlize Theron. Kristen Stewart was great. I love Kristen Stewart. Everyone else was good. You know, there weren't any bad performances. And I guess now I'm going to talk about spoilers since, I mean, I pretty much covered the overview, and I really recommend that you guys see it. So after you're done watching the movie, come back and watch the rest of my video where I talk about more details. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about spoilers. I wrote down only two things, and the first one is the scene in the woods. I'm going to go a little bit out of order, but the scene in the woods where, you know, in the cartoon Snow White, you know, the guy goes to stab her, and then she's like, ah, and he's like, go, run into the woods, never turn back. And so she runs into the woods, and she's, you know, the trees are scary and everything, and she's just sort of like freaking out. And then she just lays down on the ground, and then the, you know, bunnies and the deer come over or whatever. That part translated to like this dark, you know, sort of suspenseful Snow White and the Huntsman was really well done. Really well done, and I was so impressed. I had kind of forgot about all the things in the cartoons, so when I was like, oh yeah, this is that part that they're making really creepy. So that part in the woods where Snow White is having all those hallucinations and everything was really well done. Another note that I wrote down was that I really liked the interpretation of Snow White's dress to the Snow White and the Huntsman dress. They took, you know, the sleeves and everything, and they made it much more sort of not, I mean, it's completely different than the dress in the cartoon and stuff, but, you know, they made it dark and, you know, just, it was just really cool, and I really liked how they did it, and they still sort of kept, like, the silhouette of a dress, but it was like the, I don't know, beat people up version of it. One of my favorite things about the movie in the beginning was when Charlize Theron is talking to the mirror, and it's talking back to her, and no one else can see it because, you know, she's just imagining it, and she's that narcissistic and all that, that she's just like talking to herself, her own reflection. So that was really cool, and everything with her character was awesome. Like I said before, it had so many layers, there was so much to her character that, you know, I don't know, she was the best part of the movie, and her character was the best part. I do have to say that the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life was the haircut on Charlize Theron's brother in the movie. I can't even explain. What kind of a haircut? I mean, not in a bad way, because it worked for his character, but it was just, he was the funniest thing that I've ever seen. Everything that he did whenever he was on screen, I was just laughing, because I just couldn't take him seriously. He was really funny. But, I mean, he was good. The whole beginning storyline when, you know, we see the young Snow White and the Queen, Charlize Theron, was done really well, and the part where Charlize Theron's walking down the aisle and she sort of turns around and looks at Snow White was really cool and really creepy. And I loved how they did that whole thing. And then when she was in the tower, or the dungeon, I guess, I feel like Kristen Stewart was really good in that sort of those beginning scenes. Some things that I didn't like about the movie, again, I said some parts were slow in the middle. There were weird things, like they went into this fairyland or whatever, and there were these weird little creatures, and I mean, there was this little, like, or it wasn't little, it was like this big sort of deer, or whatever it was, and I just didn't understand the point. Like, I got that they're trying to show her power, like Snow White's power, and how she's, you know, has, you know, some sort of authority because she's like the good side. Stuff like that. I get that, but I just feel like it was too much, and they kept using different ways to show, to sort of mean the same thing over and over. Like, I feel like if they took all that out, we would still understand that she is, like, the one chosen for the good side. You know what I mean? So it was a little bit, you know, the stuff with the fairies was just annoying. Like, it wasn't annoying, it was just pointless and boring. So I wish that would have been taken out because it just seemed so irrelevant to the story. And another thing, the dwarves were, like the one dwarf, the ginger dwarf, that ends up dying, I didn't care. And it's the same thing, I compared it to when Rue dies in the Hunger Games. It's just like that character that's not a big character, but they introduce it to befriend, you know, the main character that you're rooting for, so that they can die and make you feel bad. So that was the point of Rue's character in the Hunger Games, and this was the point of this ginger dwarf in this movie, and I just didn't care that he died. Like, I know they were trying to force everyone to be sad and whatever, but I don't care about the dwarf. Like, there were so many more things going on in this movie that I was like, alright, yes, okay, it's sad that he died, but can we, like, go back to the story, because things are going on. So that thing with the dwarf didn't work for me. I wish that they just would have not had it in. Another thing at the middle of the movie was that none of the scenes in the middle of the movie felt connected in any way. They all felt really random and almost like they were different movies. Like, I keep thinking of different scenes and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that that was in that movie. Like the scene where they go, Snow White and the Huntsman go to that little village with all those women because all the men are fighting in war, and they have the scars and everything, and then it goes in flames, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. I didn't feel like it fit with the rest of the movie. It was just such a random, I mean, I get the point of it and everything, but it just didn't transition well. They didn't revisit things or people from different scenes, so I mean, it just felt weird, and I don't know, I just feel like the writing was a little bit, you know, poor in that aspect. I wish that they could have sort of connected the movie better and the scenes better. Another thing that I wish that they would have, you know, when I said I wish they had taken out all that fairy stuff, I wish that they had put in more scenes with, I don't know his name, but the actor who Charlize Theron, like, pretends to be and gives Snow White the apple, one of her, like, love interests. It's not the Huntsman, it's the other guy, her friend from when she was younger. I wish that they had explored or used more time to have their relationship grow a little bit, because it was sort of like, you know, they met after all these years, and then they were just sort of like traveling together with everyone else, and then all of a sudden it jumped to the scene where they were in the snow, and then they had this like kissing scene, even though it was Charlize Theron. Snow White's character doesn't know that, so I just feel like they should have taken out the scenes with the fairies and the troll. I'll talk about the troll in a second. Taken out those and put in more scenes with Snow White and that guy, and Snow White and the Huntsman. Because the only thing that, you know, the Huntsman and Snow White had, you know, that was sort of leading to the romance was when the Huntsman says to one of the dwarfs that he leads him to think that he's not just in it for the gold, and you know, Snow White doesn't hear him say that. So to me it was just like, there was no character progression between the little love triangle there. I just feel like there weren't enough scenes where I can understand why Snow White would be either torn between the two or even be thinking about, you know, romance between any of them, you know what I mean? Like, there had to have been more sort of intimate scenes between the two of them, where it's just, you know, the two of them talking, And then it would have made sense more when Charlize Theron acts like the guy, and then that's why she would kiss him, because they've already sort of had those moments. So that didn't work very well. And the troll thing was so dumb. There's I mean, if you're watching this, I'm sure you saw it, but the part with the troll, and towards the beginning when they first go on their, like, travels, there's a troll, and he just starts, like, attacking them, and Snow White and the Huntsman, and, you know, he's beating up the Huntsman, and then Snow White just sort of stares at the troll, and the troll stares back, and then the troll just walks away. Like, why did that scene even exist in the movie? I don't understand. I get that they're trying to use that again as a way to show that, you know, Snow White has that power in her on the good side, but it was just a waste of time, should have been a deleted scene, and again, they could have used that time in the movie to, you know, have a scene with Snow White and the Huntsman where they're talking about their life. Like, she could have talked to him about his wife, he could have talked to her about, you know, her life being in the dungeon and all that, and her dad and everything. So, just any scene between them to make them know each other more, because the only time that they actually have a scene is when she's dead, and that doesn't count because she's not listening. So, you know, there were things that didn't work. But overall, I really loved the movie. I would see it again. It did live up to my expectations. It's like a weird thing, like I said before. The first third absolutely exceeded my expectations and was better than I thought it would be. The middle of the movie, you know, wasn't as good. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good. And then the last part of the movie picked up a bit, but it wasn't as good as the first part. So I'm done with my review, I think. I hope I didn't leave anything out. Let me know in the comments if you agree with anything I said, or if you had different ideas and stuff like that. And if you liked it or if you didn't like it, and what your favorite parts were. And that's it. Bye.